So join us, if you will, as we take a little trip back in time to the year 1977. Eric, a lot of good things came out in 1977.
I was 7 years old.
Star Wars.
Oh, yes.
The Eagles Hotel, California.
Classic.
Young man, you might know.
Throw me out of the bus here.
Well, it was 'cause me.
Oh.
I was born in 1977. As a matter of fact, it was my birthday a couple days ago.
Well, happy belated birthday.
But in the city of Dover in Massachusetts, over the span of a couple of days, and maybe a little longer, they saw a creepy little fella kind of roaming around. I won't say he terrorized anybody, but he definitely sent a chill down the spine, made some people uncomfortable. And he's known nowadays as the Dover Demon. So that's, this is the fellow we're going to talk about tonight.
Join us if you will.
From a child born into this world, we are taught what to believe. Closed-minded we become, fearful to be deceived. Still we desire to know what lies beyond that locked door. The art of the storyteller, conjuring tales of legend and lore. History hidden, lost knowledge, things forgotten and the unknown. These are the things that direct us and will set the tone. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
So the Dover Demon is described as a small humanoid creature, very similar to the common gray alien. And I believe if you, in your research, Eric, if you saw pictures of it online.
I actually have a picture pulled up here, yes.
Very, very much like a gray alien. Except for it was described as having rosy tan colored skin. He did have the large head on a small stick-like body. He could walk on all fours or upright as, situation required. And would switch between both styles seamlessly. Had the large eyes that would glow. They were usually glowing orange, but at least one occasion they were documented to glow green.
I talk a little bit about that, yeah.
He did not wear any clothing. And was not associated
with... naked.
Yeah. Run around naked. And was not associated with any UFO sightings at the time. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. Why wasn't he associated with you? He looks very much like an alien.
Very much, yeah.
But there may be a reason for this.
Well, being the historian, of course, I wanted to dive into a little bit of Dover, Massachusetts. Now, it's nestled along the banks of the Charles River, roughly 15, 16 miles southwest of Boston.
And that's important, the river. We'll have to remember that detail.
Yes. Now, the small town of Dover had historically led a quiet and unassuming existence. As of the 2020 census, it only had 5,923 people reported to live there. The entire area encompasses only about 15 square miles, even counting all of its rural communities. It is known for heavy snowfall and really nothing more. That is, until that date in 1977. There was really no one famous from here, no major historical events, so the small town just kind of seemed doomed to be remembered as just Dover. Until that Easter time frame of course, 1977, when it would all firmly be connected in the history books of cryptozoology as the Dover Demon. As Bill said, kind of a gray type alien, what we would assume by looking at the pictures. About 3.5 foot tall, humanoid characteristics, standing semi-erect, often kind of sitting on its hind legs almost, and grossly oversized head was often used to describe.
Yeah, this all starts April 21st, 1977 at about 10:32 p.m. 17-year-olds Bill Bartlett, Mike Mazoka, and Andy Brody first saw the demon while they were driving along at night. Now, Bartlett was behind the wheel that night, when he saw something creeping along a low wall of loose stone near the side of the road, which, if you go there today in Dover, that wall's still there. They showed pictures of it on some websites. This was on the left side of the road. Now, at first, Bill thinks this is a dog or a cat.
Yeah,
right?
Household pet.
You see that kind of thing all the time until his lights shine on it. Now, when his lights illuminate this creature, he sees a large-eyed creature with eyes shining like two orange marbles with, again, that overshaped, watermelon-shaped head on a thin neck Now, they said it had tendril-like fingers. The way the fingers were described is they would curl around things. They would curl around the rock. They would curl around, not like our fingers, like you have the joints, but almost like tentacles or tendrils in a way.
Well, in the sketches I saw, it also had almost like little suction cups on the tip, almost like a tree frog or, something along those lines.
He described it as being completely hairless, with skin the texture of wet sandpaper. I'm assuming he's guessing what it looks like.
I'm like, that's a pretty close observation, the skin like sandpaper.
Yeah, but he said it was no more than 3.5, maybe 4 feet tall, and it was climbing along the wall until the headlights shined on it. Now, neither of his companions that night saw the creature, and before he could point it out, they had already driven past the demon.
Yeah, I think the other guy in the front seat had kind of like rotated this, of course, back before seatbelts and everything was a big deal, and he was talking to the person in the back. They were oblivious, wasn't paying attention where he was going.
Bartlett continued on his trip, dropped his friends off, and then returned home. And his father noticed right away that something was out of the ordinary. He asked him a couple times what was going on, what was wrong. And then finally Bill explained to his dad what he had seen. And his family was obviously had some concern, but what do you do when you see something like that? He saw something, they didn't know what it was. I'm sure they probably downplayed it.
And I think it was about that point he kind of did some rough sketches, too, that comes into the storyline.
So later on, I think that same evening.
Same evening, about 2 hours later.
15-year-old John Baxter reports seeing a similar creature. Now, this is on Miller Hill Road, about midnight. He's leaving his girlfriend's house, Miss Kathy Cronin. And this is at the south end of Miller High Road. But a half an hour later, after he's walked maybe a mile, he sees this figure approaching him. Now, the figure's very short, and he's got a friend, an M.G. Bouchard, who's apparently, not very tall. And he assumes it's his friend who also lives on the street. His buddy's coming out to say hi or spook him or whatever. So he calls out, hey, hey, buddy, what's going on? And he gets no response from the figure. So they continue to approach one another, and then Baxter stops. He kind of gets a weird vibe, and he's like, who's that? Now, the night's overcast. You really can't see what's going on, only the shadow of this person.
Now, there was a street light that was here as well, and the person creature, intentionally did not step into the street light.
Now, Baxter takes a step forward, and the figure then scurries off to the left. It runs down a shallow wooded gully and then up the opposite bank. And Baxter can hear the footsteps in the leaves and the detritus on the ground as it does. He follows it down the slope. And then he stops at the bottom and he looks across the other side of the gully. It's then that he sees the creature standing up top of the ridge there, standing in silhouette. It's about 30 feet away. And he said its feet were molded around the top of the rock. So that goes back to what I was talking about with its fingers earlier. Yeah. It's got it's hard to say, like its tendrils or tentacles. Or, they're not really like fingers or toes. They're not jointed. They just kind of fit around whatever they're touching. Now, he said the body reminded him of a monkey, except for what he called dark figure-8 shaped eyes, which I guess that means probably big eyes that were kind of close together. Maybe.
I would assume, yeah. Now, he described red glowing eyes in this instance, too, which I'll get into a little bit more.
He said its eyes were 2 lighter spots in the middle of its head, and he could tell this creature was looking straight at him. So now he sees that this isn't a person. You react like anybody's going to react. This is making him uncomfortable. It makes him uneasy.
And I think he suddenly realizes, I've removed myself off the road, away from the street light.
Yeah, he's out in the dark in the woods.
This thing possibly has lured me down here to kill me or whatever.
So he's never seen a creature like this. And not knowing what this creature is going to do, not knowing what to expect out of it, he climbs right back up the road. He climbs right back up the slope to the road and just starts hightailing it home.
Now, he also describes it, again, all of them kind of, if you compare the tales, there's a lot of similarities, but he says this head is so grossly oversized that it's like its neck almost can't support it. So like its head, I can almost imagine kind of flopping around, kind of tilting as he's twisting his head and examining him.
Yeah, he hightails it up the street until he gets to the intersection of Farm Street, and there a couple in a passing car pick him up and drive him home.
Because he is so startled, he runs out kind of in front of him.
And then I also feel that tells you the difference in time frame, too. Because if I was a teenage kid, I would not be...
Hey, look at this creepy guy that just ran up over the side of the street.
I wouldn't be trying to snag a ride with strangers.
I just got my girlfriend in here. You can ride in the back.
And again, it's a small town. Maybe they knew each other. So, anything's possible, I suppose. Now, the final sighting...
Now, hold on. Now, Bill makes some sketches here as well.
Well, yeah. Well, that's going to... that'll come after the next sighting.
Okay.
So the final sighting is that of 15-year-old Abby Brabham. So she claimed to see the creature the following night on Springdale Avenue. She was riding in Will Trainter's car when she saw a creature on the side of the road. And her description that she provided matched that of Bartlett and Baxter, except for this time she said the eyes glowed green. Now, the investigators tried to poke holes in her story when they did investigate it, stating, hey, Bartlett said this creature had orange eyes, but she stood by her story. Like, when I saw it, it had green eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like you said, all the witnesses drew sketches of the creature.
Yes, there was a lot of similarities, but where I really wanted to take this was the eye glow, if you will. In the first story, that was of Bill Bartlett, he described orange eyes. Then we have John Baxter, who, in pursuit, which he was brave there for a few moments, dove down off the road, down into kind of the forest area. He described red eyes. And then, as you stated, Abby Brabham was very adamant to the officials and cops that it had green eyes. Now, I don't know how much listeners out there know about eye glow, but I was raised on a farm. I was raised out in the country. That actually is a good piece of information, because if we look at the eye glow, it occurs with some animals due to the refraction of light. Some of these animals, such as dogs, cats, raccoons, alligators, take in as much light as possible for nocturnal-like creatures for hunting, and that reflection, depending on the angle of the light and a lot of different things, but typically, if it glows yellow, it could be a bear, a great horned owl, cattle.
I believe wolves' eyes glow yellow.
Cat, deer, bobcat, mountain lion, raccoons. A green glow can be a dog, sheep, bullfrogs, house cats, or possums. A white glow is deer. Again, you'll notice some of these, again, kind of depends on the angle and stuff, can be multiples. Coyotes, elks, and tigers, where blue glows are often of a horse, dog. There this poor dog is. This dog is multiple things. And woodchucks. Red glowing eyes can be a black bear. Different bears can even actually have different eye glows. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Alligators, river otters, rabbits, porcupines, or gray foxes. Now, humans, I don't know about you, but I grew up in the age of Polaroid cameras, and I can't tell you how many of my ancestors I saw with demonic red eyes in these Polaroid pictures. It used to creep me out. It was like, is my family vampires, or are they demons? What's going on here? It kind of scared me a little bit. But again, we have one that's a red eye, one that's an orange eye, and one that's a green eye. Besides a dog, they can kind of overlap into several things. But what he is describing, it does travel on four legs. You might say, okay, it's a dog. There's no mention of a tail in any of the settings, which some dogs have their tails removed, but an oversized head, that doesn't really match any normal dog breed. So there was some speculation. There was mention of no hair, possibly a dog that had mange. Then some would stretch out and say, okay, well, maybe it was a fox. Maybe it was just, a creature that's normally there but has mange. But you made a point. The tentacle type fingers, no dog
that's very unusual.
Anything. So that led us to the next conclusion. Some of the scientists believed it could have been a monkey, a primate of some sort that had escaped as a pet or from a zoo. Now, you may think that's pretty far-fetched. We talk about Dover. Snowfall is one of the things it's known for, obviously. Winter, monkey's not going to survive there. But in some of our other podcasts, the Jonestown Massacre, he even went around and sold pet monkeys in the 70s, door to door.
Yeah, I have it referenced here that one of the possible explanations was a pet gibbon. But, again, they were illegal to own at the time. So,
So there's a lot of speculation, but I at least wanted to shine a little light on the eye glow, if we will. That was some interesting scientific stuff.
One of the most common explanations that people used at the time was that of a baby moose. I think using the size of the head if you saw a moose head on. Now, people who know things, which is a phrase that I like to use, they point out that, one, it was the wrong time of year for baby moose sightings. And two, Massachusetts, it's well outside of normal moose territory.
Yes.
So why would they have had a baby moose roaming around?
And again, tentacle-like fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
and it actually, I do want to go back to this rock wall that at least in two of the sightings that was spotted. One of them very specifically stated it was climbing on the side of a rock wall. Now,
I didn't see that.
I did not take it to the fact it was climbing on top of the rock wall, but it like climbed along the side. So yeah, moose, dog, yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
And again, with the fingers grabbing the way they do, almost maybe chameleon-like, where they could just kind of adhere to anything.
Chameleon, lizard-like.
Now, you talked about the sketches. They all the witnesses did provide sketches, and their sketches were pretty well identical, and they all swore by them. Bill Bartlett actually wrote right on his sketch, "I, Bill Bartlett, swear on a stack of Bibles that I saw this creature." So he was very much like, I swear I saw this. Now, if you go by each sighting and you plot them on a map, they lay on a straight line over a 2-mile span over those 2 nights.
I bet this goes back to the river aspect you were talking about.
That is going to come up in a moment.
Okay.
I am going to reference that. That is important. Now, there are 2 other possible sightings of the Dover demon.
Oh.
Now, Dover, like you said, is kind of a quiet place, was known to have some strange experiences, but really not a lot of well-documented things. But there was a sighting. 1972, 5 years before, a Mark Sinnott swore he saw a creature in the woods. He was driving along, and something with glowing eyes was illuminated in his car's headlights. He didn't quite make out too much about it. He said it was a small figure deep in the woods, moving at the edge of the pond. We could see it moving in the headlights. We didn't know. So again, you've got it's a small creature, glowing eyes, along the edge of the pond.
Near a water source.
And then Bill Bartlett, about a year later, 1978, said he was parked with his girlfriend when they heard a thump on the car. And when they looked around to see what it was, he could see a small humanoid figure fleeing the scene. He couldn't make out any details. He didn't want to say for sure it was the demon again. It didn't exactly match what he had seen back in 77, but it wasn't like, he didn't think it was human. Possibly 2 other sightings. Now, I kept talking about the connection to water and how that was going to be important. We said earlier that was it a baby moose? Was it an escaped monkey? Was it a dog and mutant? Is it a hoax? Maybe. But the Cree people have in their traditions, in their folklore, a creature they describe as very similar, known as the Managishi. Now, the Managishi is a race of trickster people. In the Cree tradition, there were 2 peoples on Earth. There was the Cree, human beings.
Of course, you're talking Native American tribe, yes.
And then there was the Managishi, which were trickster peoples, and they really liked to mess with human beings, or the Cree. Now, they were described as semi-humanoid, sexdactylous, which sounds a lot worse than it really is. It simply means 6-fingered.
Oh, okay.
6-fingered humans. They just called them humans.
That didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, no, it's definitely... I made sure to look up the word because I thought I knew what it meant. I wanted to be right. They are very thin with lanky arms and legs, with big heads and no noticeable nose.
I'm envisioning almost like Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Well, big head, no nose. I mean, it does sound like our demon.
Yeah.
Now, the reason this is attached to, the reason the water is involved is the Cree say that the Managishi are said to live between rocks and rapids, and one of their primary delights is to crawl out of the rocks and capsize the canoes of people that are canoeing in the rapids, spinning them off to their deaths. Now, again, we talked about the river.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the pond.
Mm-hmm.
All sightings of the Dover demon were somewhere close to the river or that pond. All sightings were near water. So according to the tradition of the Managishi, the Managishi reside in water. Now, we probably do a lot less canoeing than we did back in the days of when things were more wild. So that little guy can't come out and spin your boat out of whack.
He's had to go to the roads now.
Yeah, maybe he can, freak you out enough that you spin your car out of whack. So
now, another thing that was brought up, the faceless features, if you will, besides the eyes, there was no nose, as you mentioned, no mouth, at least that was visible.
No, the sketches don't show a mouth at all.
So that was kind of weird. And one might say, well, again, if you imagine this kind of bulbula cone shape on the elongated head, maybe the mouth is up underneath that you just can't visibly see. But obviously this thing's got to eat something somehow. Yeah,
there's no picture of the Dover demon has a mouth on it.
No ears, at least. That's
almost like this one picture here, which was, I believe, taken from the Lost Tapes television show. It almost looks like the alien from Independence Day when they crack open the armor and you get the little alien. It kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all the pictures show the fingers curled around, the toes curled around, like it's holding on. Like you said, featureless, big eyes, but no nose, no mouth.
Well, I wasn't aware of the sightings, a year later or the one before, but the essential 3 sightings took place in a 48-hour period.
Yeah.
And, it was around the Easter time frame, so it wasn't tragically cold or anything at that point in time. But that kind of, at least on my research, kind of was indicative that whatever it was didn't belong here, and it probably died off. It is something that maybe had escaped, whether it be a mangy monkey or, whatever it might be.
I like the idea of the Manigishi.
I was not aware of that, but that kind of checks several of the boxes, honestly. And, we've done a lot of cryptozoology stuff here on the podcast, and often the Native Americans has the earliest sightings if we know to go back and look for it.
Well, I know to go back to the early days of the podcast, one of the possible connections, somebody compared them to the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the Hopkinsville Goblins did wear a silver uniform, and, they were associated with the UFO.
As we talked about this one, he's naked.
Yeah, this guy is not wearing clothes, no UFOs, which is why I like the Manigishi explanation more than anything, because there is no UFO sighting. Like, even with Chupacabras, occasionally there's UFO sightings. This guy was out there on his own, so maybe he was just out there.
Well, you brought that up on early in the podcast, and I thought it was also odd at a glance of this sketch. I mean, it looked like a gray alien. Why is there like zero connection to a UFO, or that this could be an alien? That seems really out of place. I mean, I'll say this, Bill and I have talked, and, which one of us is more the believer and the doubter, and, but seriously, if you're going to have a tale that you concoct or is a real life, why wouldn't you reach out to that avenue and say, well, this could also not be a mangy monkey, but it could have been an alien with a UFO. I mean, this is the 70s. As you said, Star Wars was coming out in this year. So I don't know. That seemed really strange to me that there was seriously, I didn't find any mention that this could be an alien, a UFO, anything.
Well, like we said, we got to give credit to John Baxter for chasing it through the woods a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Before giving up, because I wouldn't have done that.
Dude didn't even have a car to retract back to. I mean, he just out there walking, and I'm going to chase this thing.
I mean, to tell something of a similar story, and why I absolutely could tell you I wouldn't do this. A friend and I there was a sinkhole not too far from Dixon, Missouri, and it was a very beautiful place to kind of sit up on the rim and look across. It was big, so you could look across, and there was trees and stuff. You'd be looking down on the tops of trees. And him and I used to go out there from time to time and hike around. And one night we got out there and we're sitting on the edge of the sinkhole and we're talking. And mind you, at the edge, there's no trees. It's just kind of an overhang. So we're just kind of sitting there, and we lost track of time. It started to get dark. And, under the cover of trees, it gets darker before it does anywhere else.
Right.
So to us, it was still plenty bright out. But as we turned around, we're immediately the forest is dark. And, I'm not saying
creepy, scary.
Big old chicken or anything. But I was like, well, okay, that's kind of... I've been in the dark woods before. Let's head back to your car, dude. So now the friend I was with had a katana on him, which I say only because
you have the coolest friends, Bill.
It makes the story funny. So we take about 2 steps, and there must have been something watching us as we were watching, over this sinkhole. Because we took about 2 steps, and something made a whole lot of noise as it decided it didn't want to be there anymore and took off into the woods. Now, in an action so fast that I'm not sure how I didn't get hurt, my buddy's katana was out and carving trees down before I knew what was going on. He was ready to kill whatever was coming at us, which I thought it was pretty clear whatever it was going away from us. But hey, whatever. And I don't know how I didn't get cut, but he hacking at the trees and whatnot. And,
one of those late night Japanese knife sushi commercials.
And then he puts his sword away, and we make our way to his car. And of course, this guy believed in everything. He saw all the things that nobody else saw. He had a lot of experiences. I could do an entire episode just relating his story. He had so many encounters. But as we got back to his car, which was parked on a gravel road, we got back up to the paved road because we didn't even go to his car. Going to his car meant walking through so much more forest to get to the gravel road that we made a straight line for the main road. And then we walked along the main road back to his car. And after we got to his car, we got back on the main road and was passing. He swears he saw something in the tree line about the place where we stepped out. So I don't know what it was, but I'll tell you right now, it wasn't even fully dark. And I wasn't stepping into those woods. You know what I mean? This guy saw something and was like, let me get a better look at that, and chased it down in this ravine, and then realized, hey, maybe I don't want to chase this. This is
probably not my best decision I've made this evening.
So I do appreciate your comment about having the coolest friend.
Oh, absolutely.
I've got some
my friend's
weird
got a
stories.
katana.
From that time frame of my life. I do have a lot of weird stories. But again, I'm not going to go chasing after some critter in the woods at night.
Without a weapon, especially.
Yeah. I mean, we've done some amateur ghost hunts, you and I, and some of those have been outdoors. Mm-hmm. And even then, I
love your brother and sister to death, but when they locked the doors that night at the cemetery, I never will forget that. Well,
again, your nerves are so on edge that, when strangers pull up, and I'll admit it was funny, but, when you guys heard the doors lock, and I'm like, oh gosh, like, the heck?
Yeah, for those of you who hadn't heard the story briefly, we were out at a local cemetery doing a paranormal ghost hunt that night, and we were being very respectful. I mean, we didn't even have alcohol or anything. We were as legit could be, with recorders and some lights and cameras, and we were out there, and we got some orbs and some different things. Well, sure enough, we were kind of up on a hill, and so you had a relatively good view, and here come these headlights.
We drew a little attention.
And there was no like highway getting here. It was a dirt road at best, or across a field.
We felt we were at a dead end too, even.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, they're coming here. There's nowhere else to go here. They're coming for us. And I think there was about at least 6, maybe not 8 of us, because Mark was there as well.
Me, my brother and sister, you, Tim, Mark.
Yep.
And
Tim was there.
I'm sure Sarah was there.
Yep.
So there was like 7 of us there.
And we had just heard this god-awful sound that, honestly, if you don't know what a fox during mating season sounds like, it's creepy. And so all of us were a bit on edge, and I was like, no, that's what that was. It was, that was a fox. It's cool. Well, here comes this truck kind of bouncing up through the field, and Bill's brother and sister, love you to death, immediately we turned around and they were like gone. And you see the car doors opening.
Okay, to minor correction. Part of the lore of the location was that if you were in a car, you could get different reactions than the people outside the car. So we started in the car. We never got out of the car.
Oh, okay.
And I think we had a recorder, and we had a EMF reader with us. So we were trying to get a reaction in the car.
Well, the funny point is, as the truck pulls up, and it's the owners of the land, two farmers, rifles, shotguns in the back of the window kind of persona, you hear... and the car is, and it's like, really? Just leave us out here to fend for ourselves? Come on.
I remember it seemed like Tim was very not happy.
Not happy, Tim.
Which, again, it's a funny story.
It is, looking back on it.
Yeah, again, like I said, though, you're out at night, you're uncomfortable, you're out of your element.
Yep.
There's a reason people have a fear of the dark, so...
You can hear a cow mooing, and it's different when you're out there in the dark. It's like, oh, did you hear that? Yeah, it was a cow, dude.
Oh. Okay, since we're reminiscing just a little bit, we had gone to a place that my friends, affectionately called the cabin, which was an abandoned house. We were absolutely trespassing, but we were walking back one day, and we heard this god-awful noise from somewhere in the woods. And, oh, man, the idea was this place was supposed to be haunted, and we were already kind of
living
on edge.
Up to expectations.
And then we hear this noise off in the woods, and we were like, okay, we got to hightail it back to the car. Well, as we got closer and closer to the car, I guess we got closer to the sound of the noise. So the closer we got to the car, the more we were like, okay, we need to slow down. But the closer we got to the origin, the more it was obvious that this was a cow in distress, which I figure time of year, it was probably a cow birthing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we were like, oh my God, what kind of demon is chasing us through these woods? So again, you're out in the woods. I give credit to that kid for chasing that thing, because I certainly wouldn't have been able to.
I feel sorry for the little guy myself. The Dover demon. You had to use the word demon.
Well, I didn't use the word. Somebody else come up with that name.
Did he really hurt anybody? He didn't have any ray guns. He didn't attack anybody.
He watched some people, and he ran when he was approached.
Yeah. So
the closest he got was maybe when he hit Bill's car that one night.
Yeah.
But, a year later.
I don't know. It just doesn't feel fair to me that he was described as the Dover.
What else? The Dover?
The Dover visitor.
The Dover visitor. Okay. So
I think we need to write Dover, Massachusetts, and
We just renamed him the Dover Visitor tonight. It sounds better.
It does.
Demon makes him sound bad. He really didn't do anything.
It demonizes him. I mean, come on. Come on. All right, we've rambled on long enough. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed one of the little less-known tales of cryptids, the Dover Demon. Thanks so much for listening. We'd like to give a shout-out to our first paying sponsor, Raven's Loft. That's our family shop here located in Lebanon, Missouri. It's your one-stop gaming, vintage toy, and collectible shop where you can find Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, comics, vinyl records, role-play gaming, Magic the Gathering, and so much more. We're located here at 223 West Commercial, downtown Lebanon, and also in our second location, also here in Lebanon at the Heartland Antique Mall. We'd like to thank Raven's Loft for, again, supporting Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
I want to take a time to thank the people that helped bring this all together. Alex Tudor, you can almost call him our producer at this point. Sarah Tudor, who also helps with some of the technical stuff. I want to take a moment to extend thanks to Eric for letting us use his space to record in, kind of our makeshift studio.
I, in turn, would like to thank Bill for, one, putting up with me and using this camaraderie to do something we both very much love and enjoy doing, and thank Bill's family for allowing him to spend all the time to work and clean up our recordings and present them in what you hear in the final terms, the final edition, if you will.
And I'd like to thank all of you for continuing to listen. I know we've got some loyal followers out there. We do this as a labor of love, but we're happy that there are people that enjoy it hopefully as much as we do.
Thank you very much.